Newage podcast. How y'all guys feeling today?
Good.
Good after the holidays.
Good after the holidays. How do y'all feel about after the holidays? You know, we talking about the stock market. It's a prediction that we're gonna get a boom in January. The Christmas rally didn't really happen, but it should be a rally after Christmas. What's y'all thoughts on going into 2022? How do y'all think the first month, 2-3 months will look for the stock market and crypto market?
I think it's going to be interesting. You know, I'm really excited about 2022. This is probably one of the most excitement I've had over the last 2 years because you know, I'm really hunting for opportunity. You know, I'm observing the landscape and the layout of the land, so to speak, and more things than just the traditional stock market, more things than just the real estate. The crypto market. In fact, I'm looking in the real estate market. So I'm really eager to see some opportunity.
Well, I mean, we like you said, we could see a rally, but then again, we've been alluding to it's going to be a crash somewhere in the first quarter. Hopefully, not hopefully. Sorry, people, but it'll probably be a crash somewhere between the first and second quarter. And my outlook on it is, I'm prepared. The market go up, I'm prepared. The market go down, I'm prepared. I know how to make money either way. So whatever way the stock market goes in the first quarter or the beginning of the year, I'm prepared. I'm waiting to see and let time tell what's going to happen.
What makes you think it's going to be a crash?
Well, we already know, what goes up must come down. And I'm not saying it's going to be a significant crash, like a depression or anything like that, but everything is at an all-time high. We see the NFT market at an all-time high. We see the crypto market hit an all-time high. We see the stock market at an all-time high in different sectors. It's all got to come down. Money's going to dry up. Liquidity is going to, evaporate. And like I said, I'm prepared.
A retracement is not a crash. So,
well,
I think he's saying he prepared for a retracement.
No.
Retracement. What kind of percentage do you see a retracement at? What's your level of
a crash is when, technically a market crash is when something's retraced 20% quarter, for a duration of quarters. I don't know if it's 3 quarters, 4 quarters.
No, I don't think it's like that.
Yeah,
it is.
Yeah, that's considered
a market crash.
Yeah, when it's multiple quarters.
Yeah, but with that high of a percentage of a retracement.
Well, I didn't perceive it as...
we just had a retracement in December, but now the S&P near all-time highs. So I just want to make that clear. Retracement is not a crash. So what are you predicting? Crash or a retracement?
What you said a retracement in December. I mean, I don't look at that as a retracement at all. I look at that.
Check the S&P 500. You'll see.
No, what I'm saying is look at that as a pullback.
Well, that's a pullback is a retracement. What I'm saying is,
what a crash to me is coming down 20%, 15-20% over a three month period. We're gonna come down 15-20% over a quarter, so to say. Okay. I wouldn't say 3 or 4. I wouldn't say 2 or 3, 4 quarters.
So you predicting a retracement?
If you want to label it like that, yeah.
So I got a question in regards to that. What is y'all take on this big allure of this market crash? Ooh.
That's where I'm going. That's where I'm going.
I asked that. I'm sorry. I asked that because, with something you just said, Antonio, you said that you're prepared either way. You could care less. You know how I make money when it's going up. You know how I make money when it's going down. So what's this big spookiness behind the markets, retracing or crashing, and the narrative that go? What do y'all think
I'm not convinced that it's going to be this crash.
Mm-hmm.
I think, I was watching something yesterday, like, a crash is significant. A crash is like what we seen in the coronavirus, during the coronavirus, maybe, more sustained because the economy boomed after that. But I'm not convinced that we're going to see that just yet.
Okay.
Just because interest rates supposed to go up next year. When interest rates go up, that doesn't mean, a crash just happens.
Mm-hmm.
I think we can see a stagnation period, a lot of volatility, similar to what we've seen in Q4, to be honest, or since September, let's say. But I'm not convinced that it's going to be just a straight up market crash. Going to what you're saying, I think fear sells.
Okay.
I think fear sells, and I believe that a lot of the media narratives, which can be valid perspectives, but take your perspective and then times it by 10. That's what we see when we constantly promote fear, when we constantly promote a market crash. And I think, honestly, a lot of us retail traders already got it in our mind that a crash is coming in 2022, or a crash is coming when interest rates spike. So we'll be playing the sideline while the big institutions is playing in the field, and we just watching because we already got in our head that a market crash is coming, or a market crash is coming when this happens. That's not how it works. But I do think we got signs of various things, but I think it's kind of, I don't want to say overhyped. I think it's been promoted and elevated a little bit more than what it probably should be.
So I'm glad you just said that about it being promoted. Explain what you mean. Who benefits from promoting this type of narrative, or like what you think be a motive behind somebody promoting this type of fear and projecting this type of fear on people?
I mean, when you think about it, again, what's the Warren Buffett saying? I always forget. The transfer of money between the patient to the inpatient. If it's so much fear in the average investor, they become impatient. They start to move frantically.
Right.
Whereas though let's say I'm Warren Buffett over here, I'm just watching you panic and I'm just sitting back. I'm cool because I know that patience wins. Patience wins, and my strategy can benefit just based off of your uncertainty,
right,
and your fear.
Right, that's good. And I asked that because, again, I started this because of what you said. Like, you're prepared either way. You just mentioned Warren Buffett, So in my reflective listening, it sounds like you're alluding to the fact that most institutional investors or well-seasoned investors stand to gain a lot from, fear in the market, or promoting fear in the market.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think like the people that's going to lose out the most is the companies. The ones that's, the companies that their share prices are, crashing down or coming down. They're the people that's going to lose out the most. The big investors are not, because again, if I'm prepared, I don't really know too much, but they know more than me. I'm pretty sure they're prepared. And then you got to look at the retail investors that are not seasoned, do not know about a retracement or losing money. Like when they go into negative, they panic. So you got those retail traders that's new to the game, and then you got companies that's going to lose out. So those are the people that's going to be the biggest impact on a.
When you say
companies losing out, explain that.
So like,
just a working example.
uh, uh, Southwest Airline.
Mm-hmm.
Like if the market comes down, their share price come down, and for them, I'm not saying they're going to lose out over a long period of time, but during that time period of retracing or whatever, they're losing money.
So you're saying it'll impact the companies,
Yeah,
not necessarily lose out.
No, not
in
lose
that
out.
in that sense, but they'll be majorly impacted by a retracement in the market. I get you now. Datwan, you mentioned that I want to really hit on this promoting of fear in the market, because I looked at something last night, and it doesn't necessarily deal with fear in the market, in the financial markets, but it deals with promotion of a storyline or a narrative. I looked at Joe Rogan podcast, a clip from his podcast. I sent it to you last night.
Yeah, I had already watched it.
And the guy was talking about Bill Gates, the Bill Gates Foundation donating $319 million to media outlets. Donating $319 million. That's a lot of money to donate to media outlets. And he shared his, I don't want to say insight as much as I want to say his perspective, thank you, on the matter, and saying that, he gained a lot of publicity, or a lot of favorable publicity behind, donating to these outlets. The stories they will report on him in his foundation, as far as the good they were doing, and giving back to schools and education, public education, et cetera, so have you. So when you brought this up about promoting, fear in the marketplace, it's just interesting to me how news and media works behind the scenes that your average person may not be aware of. These reports can be manipulative. And I just thought of that clip that I looked at yesterday when you brought up, promotional fear.
Yeah. I wanted to ask a quick question. Not really about the fear, but I wanted to go to yesterday. The CDC kind of changed their guidelines on quarantining. If you're asymptomatic, symptomatic, all the details. If you want to look into it, look into it. So it was trending. It was this big kind of uproar about it all. What's your thoughts on the CDC changing their guidelines? Should we be shifting? I got a couple questions, but are we mentally in a pandemic, or are we physically in a pandemic, or are we both?
That's a great question, Datwan. That's a great question.
I believe like last year was more of a physical pandemic. And then over time, as we went through the summertime, and then the numbers came down. Then we're jumping back into the wintertime, the numbers are going up. People are kind of adapted to the, I don't want to say the word, but you know how they is. The variants. People are adapted to the variants, and, they see that, you don't get sick like you used to. Less people are dying like they were last year. The symptoms are not as strong as they were, but now you got this mental aspect of it of you still got to quarantine. You still got to get the shot. You still got to test. You got certain jobs you got to test every week. Like that's a mental strain on some people that when you try to forget there's a variant pandemic, the various things that keep popping up remind you that you're still in a pandemic without physically affecting you as it did last year.
A lot of things you just mentioned was physical things, though.
Right.
Testing, vaccines, quarantining. Those are physical things.
So let me say this, because that is a good point that answers about the physical, like you said, those things that took place last year. What's ironic about this is some people compare this to slavery, right? In this sense, only in this sense. We've seen through this pandemic, the argument has been that our freedoms have been being taken away. Mm-hmm. And that's the only parallel that I'm making, with as far as slavery. So, slavery, coupled with this, I'm gonna make this parallel as well. Slavery began from a physical standpoint, and then it evolved into this mental slavery, right? Pointing back to your question. The parallel with the pandemic has been, like you said, it started physically where, our restraints from moving, we were restricted on how we could move about in our day-to-day lives. Like we couldn't enter in and can't enter into certain facilities without a mask or, other types of restrictions being in place. As the pandemic continued, as the numbers began to decrease, the masks still were required, which is still physical. I've watched family members, and sometimes myself included, have these masks on, and when it wasn't necessarily operable or even necessary to have them on. What I mean by that is, let's say I'm walking up the street or I leave out the grocery store and I'm walking down the street, ain't nobody around me, because we started with this 6 feet distance and social distancing. And I'm not even aware that I'm walking with this mask, my breathing is challenged, but I don't even know subconsciously that I never pulled the mask down. Mm-hmm. So in that sense, I think we see some traces or some instances where it has transitioned into a mental pandemic.
Yeah. Should we be still worried about COVID testing numbers? Or should we be more so focused on hospitalizations and deaths?
That's a great question. I think that lies in who you ask.
I'm asking y'all.
From my perspective, I think if it's not deadly, if the deaths has decreased, as you alluded to, Antonio, I haven't done the real statistics to say one way or another. Mm-hmm. But if the numbers has decreased, then I think that we should be more worried about hospitalization than anything, because when we have colds, or the flu and things like, people have died from, it was reported early on in the pandemic or in COVID that more people was dying from the flu. And, we've had various flus where you didn't see this type of alarm. Of course, the numbers have, according to the numbers, things has escalated, I think, past flu deaths.
Oh, for sure.
But if the numbers has came down, I don't really see the need to be as concerned in regards to the vaccinations. If the numbers in hospitalization, the numbers in deaths and the numbers in hospitalizations has come down, has decreased.
I'm same way with Ron. Like, I'll be more concerned about the hospitalizations and the deaths more than the COVID testing numbers. Mm-hmm. So to say, because you got people that might test not positive with the rapid and then test positive with the regular test 2 days later, mm-hmm. and then test another rapid with a negative testing, is like, what is it? And then you got people that, get randomly tested, like, NFL players and sports athletes, they get randomly tested like it's a drug test now, that they don't have no symptoms, they haven't been in close contact with anybody, and they still test positive. So, and then what happened to the regular common cold? Like, they don't even diagnose you with that no more. I haven't heard nobody say, I've been diagnosed with a cold. I haven't heard that in so long since, COVID been out.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, testing is testing. It's not like if you test positive, you ill, you're gonna, gotta be hospitalized at that very moment.
Mm-hmm.
You can still quarantine and be good. And like you alluded to earlier, when the CDC changed the quarantine numbers to 5 days, like, things is not as serious as it seeming to be with these different variants, serious as it was.
So let me say something real quick in regards to that testing again.
Mm-hmm.
My concern with the testing is I'm not sure how accurate they are, because you got people like Antonio just said, you can take one test and you come back negative. You take another test right after you took the first test and you come back positive. So it's like, which one has the most validity? Elon Musk last year talked about, he came out publicly on Twitter and, alluded that something fishy was going on because he took 2 tests by the same doctors, came back negative, 2 more tests by the same doctor, came back positive, right? LeBron James, allegedly, according to reports, right? And we can't be for certain how accurate these reports are. But according to these reports, LeBron tweeted something as well, similar to Elon Musk, that something fishy is going on.
Recently.
Yeah, recently. This was recently. Thank you. LeBron the reports came out that he took 9 tests,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because when he first tested, I don't know which one was first. If he tested negative first and then it came back, he took another one that came back positive, or if it happened vice versa. But along the way, so the protocol, the NBA's protocol is that you sit out. You go through the process of quarantining and et cetera. But then along the way, he kept testing. For whatever reason, he continued, I guess because of the inaccuracies of the test, where they had to break their own protocol because of the inaccuracies of the tests and allow him to play basketball. So my concern is you have several reports of these inaccuracies of tests. So that's the thing with this.
Was
this
the
testing.
was the CDC raising that, changing them guidelines? Was it based on science or was it based on money?
That's a great question.
What's the guidelines?
So they changed the guidelines, like they lowered the quarantine. Somebody used the word sentences, like it's a jail sentence, but they lowered them like to 5 days, I believe.
Oh, instead of 10 to 14.
Yeah. So was that a business decision
That's
or
a business decision.
or was that a science decision?
No, that's a business decision.
So
What makes you say that?
The numbers
I know they
too low.
can't really hear you, but go ahead.
Oh, well, that one. I think it's just another step for them to put people in fear again.
No, well, the fear would be raising them, right?
No, because if it go from 10 to 14 days and they cut it down to 5 days.
So read the report, Datwan,
It say
according to CNN.
Yeah, it say the CDC shortened the isolation guidance for Americans who test positive for COVID-19 from 10 days to 5 if they don't have symptoms, and obviously is more, details.
This is a report from who?
It's from the CDC. Hold on, it's from the CDC. This is from the CDC, but this is a tweet that I'm reading from CNN.
Okay, from CNN news outlet.
From CNN, yeah.
Okay.
Anybody know what CNN is?
So with no symptoms, you quarantine for 5 days. That's what they said.
It's.
You hear how this sounds?
So hold on. It is more into it. It got something to do with the asymptomatic versus the symptomatic as well.
Right.
I think I may be wrong about this. The asymptomatic can quarantine for 5 days, but be around people with a mask. Like can breach quarantine, but have to be around people with a mask. the symptomatic can't leave for the 5 days. And supposedly, the most contagious you are 2 days before you feel the symptoms and 3 days after you feel the symptoms.
Man, they need to just really just make some directions and just print it and mail it out to every fucking body.
But I want to go there. I wanted to ask my question, y'all to answer my question. Is this a business decision or a science decision? You know, America's favorite slogan right now is trust the science. The CDC has just made a decision. Is it based off of business? Is it based off of science? You saying a lot of these NFL players got to be out, bowl games getting canceled, NBA players. It's a lot of business being affected by these quarantine mandates and testing and all. Is this a business decision or a science decision?
I'm going to go with business decision because the science don't add up. If we've been following these recommendations of having 10 days, now all of a sudden we got 5 days, you can be free. Like, in my mind, the first thing that jumps out to me is the numbers gonna go up, because if you got it and you can come outside in 5 days, that means you still can transfer it to other people, and from what I understand. So
can it not be new data? Can it not be new science that shows, again, because I just said you're based off of research, you're most contagious the 2 days before and the 3 days after the symptoms.
I don't trust the research. And with this matter, it changes every month. It's something new every month. It's a new variant, new guidelines, new restrictions. It's something new every time. So to me, it's more of a business decision because, like you alluded to, you got sports being affected, you got businesses being affected, your local business being affected. You can't come to work if you test positive. You got to be out for 10 days. Then you're short of staff, and that just runs your business in a totally different direction. I'm going with business decision.
Okay. What about you?
I think it's a political decision. Of course, to me, my perspective is you can't really separate politics from business, but I think that it's underlined in political motives. You know, it's so much has been covered up that has come out along the way that's been leaked about this COVID disease in a different, from the origin of it to, these strands being developed that's been allegedly covered up so that it wouldn't affect big pharma and I forget the name of the thing that Fauci, the organization that he runs.
World Health Organization?
Yeah, it's World Health, but it's
I think it got an N in it or something. I can't remember.
I can't think of the name of it.
The NIH?
Yeah, NIH. That's exactly what it is. So much money has been granted to them to oversee the science. Not just of this diseases, of diseases globally, right? And but it don't look good. This is where the politics of it come in for me, from my perspective. It doesn't look good to have the people that we entrust to handle and take care of the world's health to make a mistake. Or be intentional about doing some things that's not necessary, or that could be objective from people.
Objectively. Mm-hmm.
So I would say that it's a political decision, which is not separated from business.
Got it. So, I I feel like I'm interviewing y'all at this point. Y'all want me to keep asking y'all questions?
What's your
Nah,
perspective?
yeah,
on the
you
question?
share your
Yeah,
perspective.
yeah.
Yeah, don't just act right. Come on, interviewer. Say, nah. Give us your thoughts and your perspective.
You said political attached to business, but your answer was political. Your answer was business. I feel like it's a little bit of both. I feel like data and science is evolving. But you know what's funny to me is that when we first started this pandemic, it was trust the science, trust the science, trust the science. And then when the science is saying quarantine for 5 days instead of for 10 days, this is off. This is business. This is a business. I think we got to decide, do we know what's going on?
Right.
Yeah.
Do we really know what's going on?
Yeah, you really know what's going on. Just don't watch TV. You'll know what's going on.
So
It's really common sense. It's really not that. You gotta look at how they starting it off. Numbers. People believe in numbers with anything. Whatever it is, people believe in numbers. First of all, why you even got to show us that?
show us what?
Numbers of deaths.
To support our belief.
To support our business. That we about to bring out.
Our belief.
Our belief. You know, you could just say, man, we got a disease that's fucking dangerous or whatever. We want y'all to wear masks. No, but to boost it up a little bit, let's put some numbers on the screen and tell them 1,800 people died.
But would you believe it if they just said wearing masks is a deadly disease outside?
You said, would I believe it?
Yeah.
I would believe it. I believe it more if they did that than putting numbers on the screen. Saying 10,000, 30, 50,000, like really?
I don't remember where I was going at with what I was saying.
Let me say this, because this kind of where you stopped at when you talked about trust the science.
Mm-hmm.
What's interesting to me about that, the promotion of them coming out and saying you got to trust the science, you got to trust the science. That statement alone will give you the it can be misleading, as if human interaction is separated from the science,
Right.
as if we don't control
The science.
Yeah, as if
The science project.
Yeah, the science project. So that's so misleading within itself.
Right.
Trust the science. Trust the science. It ain't me. I'm not touching the science. The scientists are not touching the science. Trust the data. So that's very interesting that they would even lead with a statement like that. You know, that's kind of telling within itself to me. When in reality, we all know through science class that you can't separate the people that's performing, you know, the formulas, the data and everything that entails.
The research.
The research. There you go. Thank you, sir. The research to formulate these reports. You know.
What do y'all believe in?
Say that again.
What do y'all believe in?
What do we believe in? What do you mean by that?
When it comes to the jabber, what's y'all?
What you talking about the vaccine?
Yeah.
I as far as my beliefs in it, I think everybody should have a choice. Everybody should have a choice. I don't think you should, kill someone that's not anti-vax or kill someone that is pro-vax. I think we should all have a choice as Americans and as a society at a whole, the world. I think we all should have a choice, and that's been my stance from the beginning.
My thoughts or perspective, I got two. One, I do appreciate, your perspective, which is, everybody should have their own choice in the matter. But my personal perspective is I believe in building up our immune systems. We're never taught or it's not promoted on how to build up our own immune systems. The science, if we want to trust the science, it's been proven that the body, has everything it needs within it to heal itself. But we've moved so far away from that in our society and have heavily relied on medicines, and chemicals to not even necessarily always heal us, but sometimes to maintain whatever diseases or whatever is going on. But me, myself, I believe in immunity. I think it's inherent immunity. I think it's pronounced that way. But for elementary schools, I believe in, our building up our own immune systems. I think from the beginning of time, we hadn't had as many chemicals versus natural remedies to heal us. So I'm not sure how much I can trust science.
I got two parts of this. I'm moving more towards what Datwan said about, you got a choice. This is America. You got your own choice. If you want the vaccine, cool. If you don't want it, that's your choice. You're your own person. But going back to what you just said, as far as promoting building your immune system, you think that rubs against I'm going to say this. Do you think that promoting the immune system is bad for business in America? Because, they make so much money off of medicines and people being sick and this, that, and the third. Do you think that's bad for business, quote unquote?
I think that it's counterproductive to if I'm big pharma or if I make my living and my profits off of medicines and things like that, I think it's counterproductive.
Okay.
It takes some of my line share if I push people or if somebody else comes out with, natural remedies. It takes away some of my market share.
How long does this pandemic last?
I was about to really go there with my next question to y'all. Maybe let me add on to your question.
Okay.
Do you think that this pandemic will be just a certain amount of time, or does this COVID situation just be a seasonal thing?
I think so. The question is, how long does it last? Coupled with, or more depth, is it a seasonal thing, or is it
just
will it cut off after a certain time period? I think what we're seeing is the transition. I think we're seeing a major transition in society and humanity. There's various things that's being developed. And I think that, let me answer the question first and then I'll give a support on my answer. I think that this goes on for as long as I think it goes on as long as they need it to go on. Whoever they are.
They.
I think it goes on as long as they need it to, but I think that is something more frightening from a humane perspective that's coming behind it. What I mean by that is, you've already heard me talk about, I think we're going into what's the term you use? Cyborg.
Artificial. Automatic. That's what you're talking about?
Like a hybrid of human / other species, robot, whatever, so have you. And I think that quietly, that's where we're shifting to. I think when you mix chemicals and you mix machines and you do all this scientific experiments, I think that you know, it's stuff that I think that it's breeding ground for stuff that we don't see coming. Your average person don't see coming.
What was the question again?
Do you think COVID will be like a time period thing?
Yeah,
or
right.
Seasonal.
I think as long as we have leaders that keep it going on, then I think we'll be in a pandemic. I think if we have leaders that lead us out the pandemic, and what I mean out is like verbiage, you know, the noise around it. I think it's heightened because of the noise around it. Don't get me wrong, people getting sick, you know, variants popping out. It's very contagious. But I think it depends on the leadership at the top, whether we continue to stay and be in a pandemic.
So when you say that, what do you mean by leaders at the top? I ask that because
I'm talking about.
Hold on. Oh no, you might. Let me ask my question fully and then respond. This thing is a global thing, so it's like America can't. And I'm not saying you talking about America. America cannot isolate it to where they're guiding us out of it. When you know the Omicron supposedly started in Africa and made its way over to Europe.
Well, it found.
That's what I said, supposedly.
Yeah.
And then had its first appearance in, I think, L.A. as far as touching American borders. So as long as that narrative is going, that it's spreading.
But you just said it, the narrative.
Right. So, but what I'm saying is, how do you come out and speak against something like that if this country, it happened over, it starts or it stems here, and then it makes its way to you? It's kind of hard.
No, it's definitely hard. But I think
lead against that. So that's why I wanted your clarity. That's why I wanted your clarity on when you say the leaders.
I don't think, like, ever since, let's say Biden has gotten elected, it's been COVID, vaccine. Right. I think lead officials and our government has focused so much on us being in a pandemic that we haven't realized that, let's say, I don't want to say it's over, but it's not as severe. So that's what I'm talking about. The verbiage and the noise around it has created this, almost when we was talking about fear in the stock market, it's created this elevated. When you go into the stock market, you always gotta have a level of risk assessment. You know it's a risk being in the stock market. It's a risk dealing with COVID. But when you get all this noise and all this media attention and all this, and your verbiage is constantly on fear. You know, Biden just said, if you unvaccinated, you may be out this motherfucker about to roll out of bed and your heart about to stop. That's basically what the White House just said a couple days ago. They sent that message clearly, so they still promoting that level of fear to the American people. I believe that we are in a pandemic of fear.
So what's interesting again, Datwan and Antonio, is that so when this Omicron, this new variant came about, right? Supposedly birthed in Africa and found its way to Europe. What happened was we're stopping all flights. We're banning travel. So unless they, and even with them doing things like that, it's still supposedly, allegedly spread from country to country, even with them banning these flights. Because it hadn't reached America yet during this time when it first came out, but somehow it made its way. So it's hard for me to see it stopping when the publicity, to your point, is more global than just national, you know, and the impact is more global than national. That's what I'm trying to say. So I just really don't. It's hard for me to see it stopping when it's borderless.
Yeah, I believe that it's going to be a seasonal type of thing. I don't think that it's going to just vanish like the polio or the disease that was around for a minute. I think that it's going to be seasonal. I think that it's going to be a get a vaccine every year type of thing, just how they do the flu shot. So that's my take on it.
Okay, so you're saying you think that it evolved into a seasonal thing?
Yeah. Instead of being in a pandemic of how it is now.
Right, I get what you're saying. You're saying, let's say, like you said, like the flu. The flu comes around every fall.
Flu season.
Yeah, flu season.
COVID season.
So you're alluding to that it'll be a COVID season.
Yeah.
Eventually.
Right.
How soon from now?
Whenever the business model can pick up.
Say that again.
Whenever their business model can pick up. But I mean.
So again, the question is, when does the pandemic end?
Never.
When the next election.
The next election. I like that answer. 2024.
That's a good question because the pandemic is not COVID. The pandemic is the result of COVID. So that's a very good question and a very good answer. I could see it shifting the next election. I think that's a very good answer. Very good perspective.
I like that answer. I was thinking 2024. I think 2022 is going to be another interesting year. 2021 we thought we'll be out of this at least by summertime. We back in it full-fledged. I think you'll slowly start to see big institutions, I don't want to say get tired of it, but start to push COVID in the rearview mirror. I think you're seeing it now with the CDC. A lot of us said business decision, political decision. I think we starting to see, or gonna start to see, a lot of big institutions push it in the rearview mirror. So I like 2024. I'll say 2023ish, end of 2022ish. But worst case, 2024. I definitely could see it going to 2024. Okay, if you like this podcast, let us know in the comments. Let us know your thoughts on everything we just talked about, a lot that we just discussed. Like, comment, subscribe. Welcome to the Newage Podcast, Episode 1. Thank you, fellas. We out.